Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating and honestly a potentially life-saving topic. We're going to explore why those random symptoms you've been blaming on a stressful day, a terrible night of sleep, or maybe just getting older might actually be massive warning signs from your blood pressure medication. I mean, millions of people take these pills every single day. They're literally some of the most prescribed drugs on the planet. Yet so many of us are kind of just walking around in the fog, not fully grasping what these powerful little medications are actually doing inside our bodies.
So let's kick things off with a pretty critical question. How often do we brush off feeling exhausted, or having this nagging cough, or noticing swollen ankles, and we just say, well, I guess I'm just getting older? What if the real culprit is sitting right there in your medicine cabinet? The crazy truth is, people usually don't get hurt by these meds because the doctor wrote the wrong prescription. They get hurt because they completely miss the subtle clues their own body is sending them, right up until something serious happens. To completely demystify these medications, we're going to break this whole thing down into 4 really clear themes. First up, we'll look at the big 3 medications. Then we'll uncover some hidden everyday interactions. After that, we're looking at behaviors that accidentally sabotage treatment. And finally, we'll wrap up with the ultimate treatment rule. This is going to give you the roadmap you need to stay safe and on track. Let's jump right in.
All right, Section 1, the big 3 medications. Now, they all share the exact same goal, but they leave very, very different clues in your system. And, spoiler alert, they are absolutely not interchangeable.
These drugs fall into some really unique patterns. Take Amlodipine, for example. It's a calcium channel blocker, and its classic calling card is leg swelling. Then you have Lisinopril, which is an ACE inhibitor, famous for causing this incredibly stubborn dry cough. And then there's Losartan, an ARB, which comes with a very specific risk regarding your potassium levels. Honestly, understanding this dynamic is step number 1. The name on your pill bottle tells you the class, and the class tells you the exact pattern of clues to look out for.
Let's zero in on amlodipine for a second. We've seen patients like Gloria and Arthur who developed severe leg swelling, and they had absolutely no idea it was from their medication. Gloria actually thought she was going into heart failure, and Arthur, well, he just chalked it up to old age. But here's what's actually happening. Amlodipine relaxes your small arteries way more than your veins, so blood flows down into your legs super easily, but then it really struggles to pump back up, which traps all this fluid in your tissues. If you're thinking, I'm fine in the morning, but by the evening my socks are leaving deep marks on my ankles, well, that is your medication talking to you.
Now let's talk about the Lisinopril cough. What's really wild about this one is that it doesn't always show up right away. It can literally arrive months late, totally tricking you. Take a patient named Helen. 4 solid months after starting Lisinopril, she got this persistent, scratchy tickle in her throat. She blamed the dry winter air, she bought lozenges, switched her laundry detergent, and even replaced her home's air filters. But a Lisinopril cough is incredibly distinct. It's dry, it's relentless, it's not a wet cough, and it's usually way worse at night. Yep, it was that little pill sitting quietly in her organizer the entire time.
But here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. A dry cough? That's a nuisance. However, any swelling of your lips, your tongue, your face, or your throat while taking an ACE inhibitor like Lisinopril, that is a full-blown medical emergency. It's a rare reaction called angioedema. Guys, this is absolutely not a let's wait and see situation. And it's sure as heck not I'll just call the doctor on Monday situation. Do not wait. You need to seek emergency care immediately.
Okay, let's move right along to Section 2, because all of this builds into these hidden everyday interactions. We're talking about traps hiding right in plain sight, literally in your kitchen or at your local grocery store.
The danger here often hides in the most ordinary, boring things. We're talking about heart-healthy seasonings, popping a weekend dose of ibuprofen for a sore knee, or even just catching a run-of-the-mill stomach bug. Every single one of these completely innocent things can radically alter how your blood pressure medication behaves inside your body.
Take a patient named Robert. Robert was trying to be super proactive about his health, right? He wanted to cut down his sodium, so he proudly switched over to a salt substitute. What he totally didn't realize is that a lot of these salt substitutes actually replace sodium with potassium. And because Robert was taking Losartan, which can already bump up your potassium levels, he was unknowingly overloading his system. This dangerous combo caused sudden weakness and some really scary skipped heartbeats. And then there's dehydration. This is a massive hidden trap because it completely flips your internal environment upside down. Think about what happens when you catch a nasty stomach virus. A patient named Frank caught a bug, couldn't keep a single thing down, and lost a ton of fluid. But Frank, being a very compliant patient, went ahead and took his normal morning dose of Losartan anyway. Because his body was so depleted of fluids, that normal dose suddenly acted incredibly aggressively. His blood pressure completely crashed, the whole room started spinning, and he practically collapsed.
Bottom line, when you're sick and dehydrated, the rules completely change.
Speaking of your internal environment, let's chat quickly about your kidney numbers. Mild expected shifts in your kidney labs, like your eGFR, actually happen pretty often under a doctor's supervision when you start something like Lisinopril. It just changes the pressure dynamics inside your kidneys. A patient named Sharon saw a tiny shift on her online lab portal and almost threw her medication in the trash out of pure panic. But you've got to contrast that mild shift with the dangerous declines that happen when you ignore interactions, like combining these meds with daily ibuprofen. That's a totally different beast. So don't panic over a mild shift. Just talk to your doctor about the overall trend.
Which brings us nicely to Section 3. We really need to look at our own habits. These are the well-meaning behavioral traps that accidentally sabotage our treatment. Because sometimes, let's face it, we are our own worst enemies.
Please, if you remember anything, remember this. Your blood pressure is constantly moving. It changes when you're stressed, after a heavy meal, when you're talking, and definitely when you're anxious about taking the reading in the first place. Diane, for instance, absolutely terrified herself by obsessing over these single, panicked snapshot readings. She'd check her pressure over and over again until she had a whole notebook full of numbers and was convinced her medication was completely failing. But once she learned to actually look at the trend, meaning measuring it consistently at the same times while resting, she realized her medicine was working flawlessly. The chaos wasn't the medicine, it was her method.
Also, timing is everything. If you happen to miss a dose, I need you to follow a very strict protocol. Take it when you remember, sure, but if it's already close to your next scheduled dose, skip it and just resume your normal routine. Never, ever double up. A patient named Martin learned this the extremely hard way. He saw a high reading at home, panicked about having a stroke in his sleep, and took an extra pill. But guys, these are not quick fix rescue pills. They are long game medications. Doubling up didn't help Martin. It just left him bedridden, completely washed out, and dangerously unsteady on his feet the entire next day.
And hey, never just brush off dizziness as, oh, I just stood up too fast. Dizziness is a critical warning sign from your body that it is adapting to a newly lowered blood pressure. 80-year-old Joseph proudly lived alone, but he came terrifyingly close to a major fall in his dark bathroom. Why? Because nobody warned him that he needed to sit on the edge of the bed and stand up slowly while his body got used to his newly increased dose of amlodipine. In older adults especially, just a few seconds of dizziness can literally turn into a broken hip.
All right, we've made it to our fourth and final section. And this one completely redefines what it actually means to be a good patient. We need to dispel a huge myth right now. The absolute best medication in the world is not the one that gives you the prettiest, most perfect numbers on a screen for 3 weeks. No way. The best medication is the one that actually fits your unique body, manages your symptoms, and works with your life long term. If a drug looks absolutely brilliant on paper but makes you utterly miserable in your day-to-day life, then guess what? It's failing you.
There's a vital rule you need to commit to memory. Silence is not strength here. Silence is risk. Take Teresa. She had textbook perfect blood pressure numbers on Lisinopril, but she was suffering through terrible, interrupted sleep night after night because of that hacking cough. She didn't tell her doctor because she honestly thought complaining made her look weak. But staying silent is risky, and it only breeds emergencies. Because eventually, patients who suffer in silence just get fed up, stop taking the drug altogether, and then their blood pressure skyrockets right back to the danger zone.
So, what is your actual job in all of this? Your job is to treat your side effects as data. You've got to notice the patterns. You need to speak up early. Now, you shouldn't try to play doctor and diagnose yourself, but you absolutely must report those weird, unexplainable symptoms. Tell your doctor about the strange heartbeats, the puffy ankles, the persistent dizziness. You bring the raw data and you let your doctor adjust the game plan. That's what a proactive, empowered patient actually does.
Ultimately, side effects are just pieces of information. They're clues. The moment you actually understand the mechanics of your medication, the fog lifts. The fear totally dissolves. You stop imagining that every little twinge is a catastrophe. And more importantly, you stop ignoring the actual red flags. When you understand your treatment, you become an active participant. You become empowered, and frankly, you become incredibly hard to harm.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to do something for me. Go take a look at that pill bottle sitting in your cabinet right now. Look at the name on the label, remember the class it belongs to, and ask yourself this one final vital question. Are you managing your medication, or is it managing you?